If you've ever had your heart broken by an avoidant, especially a dismissive avoidant, you probably don't want to go through that again. So here are the top 5 red flags to look out for to detect this early on. Some avoidants are very good at masking their emotional unavailability early in dating, but most have little subtle clues and red flags that they actually reveal that can be very easy to miss and not detect. So let's get into it. All right, number 5, they're a workaholic or a hobbyaholic, but they're always busy, and they really dive into work, and they're constantly working long hours, and even when they're away from work, they're constantly in touch with their job. Now, not everybody that has a demanding job is a dismissive avoidant, but it is a potential red flag. And this is because avoidants avoid. This is a person that grew up with consistent childhood emotional neglect, was never shown how to process emotions, and they were never able to communicate about their emotions, so they learned to stuff their emotions because their emotions were rejected in their household growing up. It wasn't welcome, so they learned to just stuff it and suppress it. And they learned ways to distract themselves to avoid having to feel their emotions, to avoid their inner wound of shame. And that shame comes from that emotional neglect in childhood. Work is a perfect way to distract themselves and avoid. By constantly working and being career focused, they get to avoid the parts of their life and the emotions that they don't want to face. Same goes for hobbies. And as the relationship progresses, they will continue to focus on work, and this creates emotional distance between them and their partner. Emotional closeness feels unsafe to them because it wasn't safe in childhood, and they have a deep wound of shame that they're really scared of getting exposed by emotional intimacy. So emotional distance feels safe, and working all the time or doing hobbies all the time, but being busy all the time is a way to keep emotional distance between themselves and their partner. Number 4, they're a heavy drinker or a heavy user of any other similar substances. That's because avoidants avoid. And drinking or substance use is a method of avoiding. It numbs the emotions that they don't want to face. It helps them suppress emotions. It hits the dopamine receptors in the brain. Dopamine is the reward hormone and helps them feel good, which helps numb any negative emotions. And many severe dismissive avoidants experience something called alexithymia. That's the inability to recognize and understand their own emotions, as well as the inability to recognize and understand emotions in others. It comes from a lifetime of emotional suppression. And they often need alcohol to even access any emotions. So if they can't seem to spend any time with you without having a drink, and the times they are sober, they seem awkward and uncomfortable and it's tense, that's a big sign that this person is dismissive avoidant and relies on alcohol to even be able to spend time with you, and likely self-medicates the same way too. Number 3, they always seem to keep things light and surface level. Every time you try to have a deeper conversation, whether it's about emotions, relationships, your past, any kind of learning and growth emotionally that you've done in your life, they may touch on it a little bit, or they might just really try to redirect it. Sometimes even making a joke about it and saying, oh, why we got to be so heavy? Why don't we, let's just have fun. And really steer away from that deeper emotional topics. Now, some of them can appear to be vulnerable early on, talking about their life experiences. But notice they're not talking about how it made them feel or how they felt about it. They're not talking about their emotions regarding it. They're just talking about it factually. So if they really have a tendency to steer away from heavy conversations, that is a possible red flag. And if you're meeting this person through a dating app, you can get a sense of this even before you meet them. Ask them questions about what a healthy relationship looks like to them, what it is that they want out of a relationship, or what they have learned from past relationship failures. These are questions that severe dismissive avoidance can often struggle to answer. They really struggle with self-reflection due to that internal wound of shame, and they tend to shift the responsibility of their behaviors and fears onto other people so they can avoid that shame. That's what they do, they avoid. So they really struggle to take any lessons from any failed relationship because in their mind, they always make it somebody else's fault or something else's fault. So do they blame all of their exes for past relationship failures, or maybe just vague excuses like, we just weren't compatible, we just drifted apart, they just weren't the right one, things like that? See if there is really any self-growth, accountability, and if they're willing to actually have deeper conversations? Or is it light and surface level all the time, no matter how hard you try to bring it to something deeper? Number two, inconsistencies with communication and spending time together. One day they're just seemingly blowing up your phone, being warm and affectionate. Next day they're barely replying to you without much of a real explanation other than, I was super busy today. And this happens a lot of inconsistency. Sometimes they are planning dates and then sometimes they're canceling them last minute. But it's just enough inconsistency that you're probably getting a bit of anxiety, wondering if you're going to hear from them and wondering if and when you're going to see them. If you're noticing inconsistency with communication and spending time together, that is a dismissive, avoidant red flag, because they're enjoying your validation, they're enjoying all the benefits of you, but that consistency creates closeness, emotional closeness, which is triggering to them. So they instinctively become inconsistent to manage the emotional distance and not truly let you in too close, because emotional closeness feels extremely unsafe to them. Number one, this is actually not a behavior that they do, but it's something that you feel. If you feel this magical chemistry right from the start, like it is just something out of this world, this crazy spark, these crazy butterflies from the moment you met them, that's a big red flag. And that's because it's likely not chemistry, it's anxiety. Anxiety can often be confused for chemistry by the conscious brain. The feeling of anxiety, which is that jitteriness, the rapid heartbeat, sweaty palms, it is very similar to the bodily sensation from healthy excitement. And your conscious brain will confuse the two. Your subconscious, which will pick up little verbal cues and clues and body language that you are not consciously aware of, might be warning you that this person is emotionally unsafe and likely emotionally unavailable, giving you anxiety. But your conscious brain confuses it for chemistry, butterflies, excitement. And you feel like this is just magical and you've met your person. But in most cases, the vast majority, this means that this person is actually emotionally unsafe. And if you have any history of inconsistent affection, if you are an anxious attacher or fearful avoidant, you are likely being led right into the arms of a person that is going to do to you what it is that you fear, abandonment, betrayal, because they're emotionally unavailable. Now, chemistry is an important thing. You should have chemistry between you and your partner, but real healthy chemistry doesn't feel jittery. It doesn't make you feel on edge. It doesn't have you wondering if you're going to see this person again. It doesn't have you feeling, all out of whack. It feels safe. It feels calming. It feels comfortable. It feels like home. You feel drawn to the person without all of the jitteriness and roller coaster ride that comes along. It has a very calm, comforting feeling. It is much different, and it builds up over time as you get to know this person. Of course, you should be attracted to them. You should like them, be able to have conversations with them. But that whirlwind in the beginning is often a massive red flag. And I advise people when they feel that to actually walk away, because it's actually likely their subconscious trying to warn them. Okay, here's one more as a bonus. Hyper independence, fiercely independent. They might even put it on their dating profile if they're online dating. And it can be confused as a green flag, but it's actually a red flag. One of the core fears that a dismissive avoidant has is losing their independence in a relationship to somebody who's ultimately going to reject them. And this is because in childhood, in addition to that emotional neglect, they often had a parent that was very controlling, smothering, and demanding, usually a narcissistic parent, and they learned to associate closeness with losing your autonomy, being controlled, losing your independence. So that's a core fear of them. A healthy, secure person should be an independent person, but the healthy person doesn't feel the need to advertise it. It should be a given. If you're a healthy, functioning adult, you should be an independent person. It is the dismissive avoidant that is insecure, that fears losing their independence, that feels the need to assert it. So if they make a big deal about how independent they are, or if they put something like that on their profile, or free-spirited, strong, independent, what they're really saying is, I'm a dismissive avoidant and I fear losing my independence in a relationship. So if they have a combination of these red flags, pay attention. One in and of itself may not be enough, but if they have multiple or all, That's a big warning sign.